The Main Ridge Forest Reserve is very special because it is the oldest protected forest reserve in the Western Hemisphere. And in some pieces of literature, they will refer to it as the oldest forest reserve in the world.
It was made a reserve forest by the French in 1765, and in 1776 it was proclaimed a protected area by the British.
When you visit the Main Ridge Forest Reserve, the first thing you will notice is that cool, cold atmosphere. There was a strong correlation that was discovered by Stephen Haynes. He is an English scientist, and he discovered that trees attract rainfall. And being on a tiny island like Tobago, we would need a constant supply of water. And of course, not only for drinking water, but for sanitation and also for agriculture.
It's hard to describe how you feel when you go into the Main Ridge Forest Reserve. It's peaceful, it's green, it's cool. You just feel alive. And you can't replace that anywhere else. It is critically important as a watershed. Most of our rivers and streams begin within the watershed of the island. So if the trees are cut down, that's the end of our water supply.
It all begins at the forest.
The Main Ridge is so special because of its location, because of the amount of species, both flora and fauna, that persists within there, and the role it plays in the life of Tobagonians.
The biodiversity that exists in it, some is endemic, meaning it only is found here in Tobago.
One of the book of birds that was written by Mr. Richard French, right, he named it Birds of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And we have about 22 species recorded, between 22 to 26, that is only on Tobago, not recording in Trinidad, including the national bird of Tobago, not recorded in Trinidad, is the rufous-vented chakalaka or cockerel.
The white-tailed Sabrewing hummingbird, that was declared an environmentally sensitive species by the EMA in 2004.
The only place or the only island in the world that you can walk comfortably on an island and see this hummingbird is Tobago. All over you walk in the Main Ridge, they would come and introduce themselves to you. You're looking for me?
You can find the ocellated gecko, and this year they found a new species of snake called the Tobago stream snake.
The forest is a virgin forest. Never feel the ravage of man cutting it down.
It has a long history of not being disturbed except for Hurricane Flora, which took away 2/3 of the canopy. It took 30 years for that to come back. So it would be a disaster if anything happened to that forest, if we were allowing people to log or do stuff like that. Tobago's water supply wouldn't last long. The biggest threat to the Main Ridge, the forest reserve, is humans, like everywhere else. It is human beings who interfere with what is natural.
The ease of access to the Main Ridge Forest Reserve, it can be accessed from almost all the villages from Moria straight to Castara. And sometimes people enter the Main Ridge without even us knowing, because there are so many entrances and exits that we cannot successfully police it properly. So we tend to depend on information from members of the public in terms of potential illegal activities taking place.
Overhunting, logging, taking things out of there that are not supposed to be taken, encroaching on the forest for housing, or planting gardens. None of that belongs within a forest reserve.
So the biggest challenge that we face today is climate change. As we all know that climate change is real, it's here. The climate change could possibly cause drying out of the forest reserve. The range of species could change, causing a whole change in the ecology of the forest reserve. Another challenge within the forest reserve is the aspect of poaching or illegal hunting during the close season.
When you overhunt, you will not be able to know how much wildlife we still have in Tobago, and there are wildlife that no longer exists in Tobago that was here before because of the overhunting. So with the open and closed season, it gives them the opportunity to at least manage the wildlife in a proper way. So if we're not out there enforcing that law, then it leaves us nowhere. Okay, eventually there will be a generation that will come that will not see the type of wildlife that we usually have in Tobago.
Now there's a high demand for lumber in Tobago, and the reserve have a lot of lumber, so at times people might tend to put pressure on the politicians to free up in terms of logging on state land, because we have no logging whatsoever on state land in Tobago, so that might be a future challenge.
Putting it under the synonym of a protected area would help add additional protection. And that protection is only by law. A protected area needs management, proper management, and these are what the systems that are being put in place now. And that's what we are involved with putting together. Management systems, community interface with the rainforest, and trying to educate them on how to use it in a sustainable manner and not carry on like we have been doing in the past.
The Main Ridge Forest Reserve also protects the marine resources in Tobago. So there are basic laws in ecology. Everything goes somewhere and everything is interconnected.
The ridge is linked to the sea in terms of the forest cover. The forest cover provides ecosystem services. One main one is the soil stabilization. So that prevents, it kind of purifies the water that goes down into the seas or the beach area. Also, if those trees weren't there, you'd have a lot more runoff in terms of the water, a lot more runoff, soil erosion, and the water in the seafront will be turbid, and that will affect the beachfront or the fisheries on the island.
My hope is that people will learn to appreciate what it is and to help preserve it. Become stewards. That's what it's all about. Stewards of the environment, okay? We need it, and we need to look after it.
The Main Ridge is a unique place. Over 244 years ago, our colonizers saw it fit to protect the forest reserve, and it's there in April 13 next 2020 to be 244 years as a forest reserve, the first conservation effort in the Western Hemisphere. And we as Tobagonians and Trinbagonians should be proud of such a legacy, and we should continue to protect that legacy for future generations.